Hi, today I want to share with you an experience that I've had over the last 6 years while building startups. All of them have failed. Nonetheless, I've learned so much from making them that I want to share with you my 5 biggest mistakes that I have done during all these years so you can avoid them. I have some notes in here, so excuse me for that. My first biggest mistake that I have done is thinking in terms of a solution instead of a problem. You see, this is the famous, oh, if I just had an idea, this would be great. Or what would be this awesome idea that would make me a millionaire? In my experience, that has never worked because number one, it's very difficult to come up with an idea by itself. So you never end up coming with an idea. Number two, if you come up with something, it's already invented. And number three, even if you find something useful, generally won't work out because people will ultimately not care. There will be a lot of noise, so you don't know how to reach them very efficiently. It won't work out. I have discovered, though, that people will care only if you care for them. That's why it's so important for you to start from a niche and expanding from there. But that's going to be another topic for another video. And the stuff that I've been able to build, or the ideas that I've been able to generate, are the ones that have been based on problems. It's so much easier that way. First of all, you can come up with unlimited ideas. And even though they already exist, you know that the current ones have all these limitations that you wouldn't see them otherwise if you didn't start up with a problem. One example that I have is the startup that I'm currently working with. We're building an online platform for teachers to evaluate students under a new mechanism that imposes the Dominican government. This new mechanism is very different from your traditional scoring system that goes from 0 to 100. Instead, you have to go through a series of steps in order for you to score. The problem with that is that it has created a lot of confusion. People don't know how to use it. People have increased their manual work, and the existing platform became obsolete. And that brings me to point number 2, which is building the product right away. After you have identified the problem, going ahead and building a super wonderful version of a product, avoid that. That's because you try building something out of the blue without clearly understanding its value proposition and ultimately failing. I have learned that you gotta do some customer discovery first, even though you have understood the problem, because you will learn a lot by talking to people. And try to validate the idea first, because instead of building a full-fledged product, it's going to take you way longer. You're going to waste more resources, and you don't know if it's ultimately the thing that actually is going to work. Go ahead and build what we call the MVP or the MVVP. I know it's a very contaminated and convoluted term over these last few years, but do that first. Just focus right now on providing value at the very beginning. I know that it's something that most people do wrong, because people think it's a cheap product. It's not necessarily cheap. It is not necessarily something basic, but it should be something that is good enough, that is fast enough for you to build, that's going to be able to validate your idea. That leads me to point number 3, which is building the wrong version of the prototype or the MVP. Before this platform, we built an Excel spreadsheet, which is something fast, easy to make. When we were moving into a web platform, what we needed to focus on is recreating the most important stuff from that Excel spreadsheet into the online platform. Our problem was that we were already committed to customers, and the product became more complex to build than we originally thought. The due date was getting close, and we decided, hey, we already screwed up. We already promised something. Why don't we end up building something that is not what they want, but something for them to get entertained with? Well, that buys us time. Unfortunately, that approach didn't work out because, first of all, the other thing that we built, which was an attendance module, was a super crappy version that nobody cared. Second, they were already doing that in their Excel spreadsheet and was way more efficient than we had. And third, what that provoked was that they flocked into the platform because they got excited, but then they left because there was nothing for them. Don't do that. My 4th problem is having the wrong co-founders. Guys, how important this thing is. I've had previously startups in the past in which we had 5 co-founders. In this one, we had 4 co-founders, and we had to split ways because there were people not doing anything at all. There are people that are not committed to your overall vision. Those people should not be on your founding team. I've had the misfortune or the blessing that I ended up coming with like later in the cycle. They didn't have anything built, but there were a couple of pre-built teams that I joined, and then like we created the stuff, but most of them were not doing anything. One thing that I have learned about it is that even if that person is skillful, if he doesn't care a lot about the overall product or the company or the vision that he's building, he will ultimately leave, leaving you in a very bad position. It happened to me last year. I had two great friends of mine that were building the product side to side with me, and they were originally very committed. But since number one, I was not paying them money, so I had to work purely based on influence and shares. I failed as a leader, and I was not able to communicate or envision them or empower them to continue with me. They were very skillful, but they left me on very critical parts of the company, leaving me to finish that unfinished work, and that was awful. It was play awful. And the fifth biggest mistake that I have made, which is, I think it's the most important one, which had to do with my failure as a leader, building a team. I am a co-founder that tries to learn and specialize in a myriad of skills, from marketing, finances, investing, programming, business management, psychology, whatever you want to name it. I've made the mistake on thinking that other people are like that, even if they are co-founders. It's wrong. Wrong. If you don't have a strong and unified vision that can drive commitment above a monetary reward, you won't have anything. I met with my mentor last night, and one of the things he was sharing me that was that building a team is one of the foundational parts of a successful or a winning business. I need to avoid as being the superstar. You see, one of the changes that I'm trying to incorporate right now is that every time I learn about new stuff or investigate new things, I try to teach people, even if they are my co-founders, about them. Because you got to be at the very beginning, while you're bootstrapping, you don't have all those big resources. You can't be spending a lot of money in talent. And even though you bring them in, which I had them in the past, they will ultimately be leaving because they don't feel that they were building out, that we were not a team and we're not getting out to a higher purpose of them. Another big mistake while building teams is believing that the other parties, I mean the other co-founders or early employees, are as invested as I am. Guys, not necessarily. Even though you have great people aboard, you'll find out that the level of commitment of each individual is different. So I have learned to be sharing with them different skills, things that I learned during the way. And every time that I see, if I have programmers and I see a new post and I make a new reading, I try to share with them. I try to incorporate new ideas. That's something that won't take time, and something that they can start like feeling belong. Like try to contribute them, because it's gonna make a huge difference. That's going to be it. Those are my 5 biggest mistakes. I'm going to be uploading with much more frequency. Check out my channels and different social media. Follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Snapchat, and Twitter. And I'll see you guys in the next one.